All right, let's dive into the surprisingly complex world of lash extensions. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden anatomical challenges that stand between a lash artist and that perfect, flawless lash line.
So, when you picture someone meticulously applying individual lashes, what do you think is their absolute biggest challenge? What's the hardest part of that job? Your first thought is probably a super steady hand, right? And look, that's definitely important, but it's not the real obstacle. Believe it or not, the biggest challenge is the client's own face. Yep, we're talking about all those little involuntary muscle movements. It's this constant, microscopic battle, the technician versus the twitch.
Okay, so let's get into the anatomy of this twitch. It's time to meet the main culprit, the primary muscle that lash artists are up against day in and day out. And here it is, the orbicularis oculi. This thing is really the star of the show. It's this circular muscle that wraps right around your eye. So think about it. Anytime a client feels a little bit of stress or maybe just squints because the light's a little too bright, this muscle contracts. And that little contraction? It shifts the entire lash line. You can imagine how that makes placing a tiny extension with precision, well, almost impossible. But here's where it gets really interesting. The orbicularis oculi. It doesn't work alone, oh no. It has a whole network of accomplices, a whole gang of other muscles that make the job even trickier. So let's meet accomplice number one, the talkers and smilers. We're talking about muscles you probably would never, ever expect to be involved, the ones all the way down around the mouth. Okay, check this out. Every single time a client talks, the muscle around their mouth, the orbicularis oris, activates. This sends these tiny tremors up their face that can make the eyes flutter. And what happens when they smile or laugh? That smile muscle, the zygomaticus major, pulls everything upward, and that in turn causes the eye muscles to tighten up. So a simple, happy conversation can literally create total chaos right at the lash line.
All right, moving on to accomplice number two, the jaw clenchers. And believe me, these muscles are incredibly powerful.
This is such a perfect example of how interconnected our whole facial structure is. So when a client clenches their jaw, often from just stress or tension, those big jaw muscles, the temporalis and masseter, create this widespread tension. And that tension, it travels right up the face and can directly trigger twitching in the eye area. It basically just supercharges the contraction of the orbicularis oculi.
And that brings us to our final group of accomplices, the neck strainers. This really shows how the stability of the entire upper body plays a role in this tiny, delicate procedure. It's wild.
So here's the deal. If a client's neck isn't properly supported on the lash bed, those big neck muscles are going to start to strain. And what do you do when you're uncomfortable? You shift, right? Well, that movement, no matter how tiny, travels up through their lower face and, yep, you guessed it, causes the eyes to flutter. It's all connected. So with all this chaos going on, how do technicians actually win this fight? Well, let's look at how they master these muscles, using their knowledge of anatomy to control this invisible battle.
It really comes down to a smart 5-step strategy. First off, they tackle that neck strain with proper support. That's step one. Then, they adjust the lighting so the client isn't squinting. Smart. They'll also gently try to reduce conversation to calm down those mouth muscles. And finally, they use really simple prompts like, hey, just take a slow breath for me, or can you relax your brow, to help the client consciously let go of all that built-up tension.
A really skilled technician also knows when to hit pause. They're always on the lookout for a few red flags. For example, if there's some uncontrolled eye twitching, that could be from too much caffeine or just general anxiety. A lot of blinking could just mean the client's tired. But if they just can't seem to relax their eyes or they keep clenching their jaw, that's a huge sign that the muscles are just way too active and it's time to take a little break.
Okay, so you might be thinking, why did we just do this deep dive into the muscular structure of the face and neck just for a cosmetic procedure? Well, because this knowledge, it's about so much more than just lashes.
I mean, understanding this crazy, intricate network of muscles is absolutely fundamental across the entire field of aesthetics. It's crucial for giving an effective facial massage, for proper lymphatic drainage. It's even key to understanding how Botox works, or how to shape brows perfectly along the skin's natural tension lines. See? It's all connected.
At the end of the day, it all boils down to a simple but really powerful equation. Muscle movement equals lash movement. That's it. So having a deep understanding of anatomy isn't just, a nice little bonus. It is the absolute key to ensuring safety, getting that pinpoint precision, and ultimately just making the whole experience comfortable and relaxing for the client.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What other everyday professions are out there, from your barista making the perfect latte to your barber giving a sharp haircut that rely on a secret science we just never get to see? It's pretty cool to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.